By the summer of 1780, the fall of Charleston, South Carolina, seemed to have proven the merits of the British Southern strategy. In the Battle of Camden that followed, the last elements of the American Continental Army were scattered, and their cause had suffered its greatest defeat since the start of the Revolution 5 years earlier. General Cornwallis, mastermind of the victory, had broken the back of the forces arrayed against him, and now seemed poised to march north. If left unchecked, it seemed a sure and easy thing for Cornwallis to cut off General Washington, whose own army was undermanned, underfunded, and under-equipped. The American cause was a breath away from total defeat. The only chance was to delay Cornwallis. The only hope was a brigade of the South Carolina Militia, Martin's men. The creation of the militia itself was first authorized by Harry Burwell of the Continental Army, hurriedly left in command of American forces in his region of the Southern Theater after the disaster at Camden. He appointed Benjamin Martin, a local farmer and representative of the South Carolina General Assembly, to lead the brigade, bestowing on him a field commission to the rank of colonel. Both men had fought during the French and Indian War 2 decades earlier and developed a mutual respect. Though his actions at Fort Wilderness had given him a grim reputation, Burwell recognized Martin to be uniquely suited to fighting a different kind of war against Cornwallis. Martin was already a figure of note in the region, rumored to have butchered an entire column of redcoats following the death of one of his sons and the burning of his home. To the British, he had become known as the Ghost, and a reward was offered for his capture. An eclectic force from the very outset, Martin gathered volunteers from both respected communities throughout the Santee River Valley, as well as frontier taverns and grog shops. The militia's ranks soon comprised farmers, mountain men, hunters, trappers, surveyors, and smugglers. Very few had training in the style of the regular army, but Martin had quickly assembled a corps of veterans who had served at Fort Wilderness and elsewhere. The rugged and often brutal nature of war practiced by these men became a model for the entire militia. In contrast to this, Martin's men also included Major Jean Villeneuve, an officer of the French army, who served as second in command. This intermingling of drastically different men from diverse backgrounds resulted in a ragtag unit that nevertheless would come to exhibit enormous expertise in irregular warfare. Martin's militia eschewed entirely the concepts of gentlemanly warfare, and rarely committed his men to disciplined battle lines. Instead, his forces worked to continually bewilder British regulars and loyalists with rapid surprise attacks and equally sudden retreats. Supply lines, baggage trains, and isolated units were ambushed and destroyed, only for Martin's men to then disappear into the surrounding forest before the British could respond in force. The militia was noted for its willingness to directly target British officers, a direct reprisal for the British murder of civilians, which Benjamin had experienced firsthand. As word spread of the militia's exploits, its numbers swelled, and the unit evolved from a slight nuisance to the Loyalist presence in South Carolina to a major obstacle in the region, disrupting British operations and causing significant headaches for their commanders. The nature of their attacks grew bolder, culminating in the sabotaging of a British supply ship and the seizing of personal correspondence and the memoirs of General Cornwallis. Much of the militia's success was due to their superior knowledge of the local terrain. Every other man within it was an expert tracker with decades of experience crisscrossing the deer paths and swamp trails of the region. Their base of operations, an abandoned Spanish mission deep within the Black Swamp, was likewise completely unknown to the British, and a useful encampment from which to strike out into the surrounding countryside. His ability to disappear into the swamps from even the most aggressive pursuit further amplified the legend of the Ghost and made Martin a symbol of the entire American cause. With regular soldiers completely unsuited to the type of campaign the militia was waging, Cornwallis turned to Colonel William Tavington, commander of the Green Dragoons. An elite regiment within the British Army, the Dragoons included many American loyalists, some of whom had personally known Benjamin Martin, and had insights into his methods. Tavington himself was known to engage in extremely brutal and ungentlemanly tactics, and while Cornwallis had previously reprimanded him for his actions, he was given free rein to use whatever methods he wished to bring the militia to account. With information obtained from a loyalist member of the Dragoons, Tavington embarked on a terror campaign throughout the Santee, burning the homes and murdering the families of militia members. Benjamin Martin ordered his men temporarily disbanded during this time, further frustrating Tavington's efforts to bring them to battle. In Pembroke Village, the worst atrocity of the Revolutionary War took place, in which Tavington ordered every man, woman, and child into the local church before setting the structure aflame. An act of such cruelty against the civilian population had no parallel in modern history, and would not be repeated until the Second World War. The Pembroke Massacre successfully goaded elements of the militia into riding against the Dragoons directly, but Tavington was only wounded in the attack, and the militia devastated in the attempt. Gabriel Martin, another of Benjamin's sons, was killed in the battle, and this personal loss for a time seemed to have sundered any belief he had in the revolutionary cause. But inspired by a ragged banner that Gabriel had meticulously restored with bits of scavenged cloth, Benjamin Martin reaffirmed his commitment. He rejoined his militia as they were reintegrated into the Continental Army, falling back under the direct command of Harry Burwell as he prepared for a decisive battle near the town of Cowpens. The Ghost had become such a figure of renown across South Carolina that his appearance amongst the ranks of the Continental Army was enough to rally their spirits and lift their morale, a minor victory in itself. Still in the possession of his personal memoirs, Martin, Burwell, and the American commanders were well aware of General Cornwallis's utter contempt for militia forces. With the fate of the entire war likely resting on the outcome of the battle, the militia were ordered to form the center of the American battle line. This was a position to which they were ill-suited and unlikely to hold, a deliberate gambit that played into the prejudices and overconfidence of Cornwallis. In the Battle of Cowpens, a premature charge by Tavington's dragoons broke Benjamin's militia before they had managed to fire more than a few volleys. Their retreat, however, had been a feint, and the pursuing British were drawn towards a second line of American regulars. The resulting counterattack was enough to rout Cornwallis's army. The Green Dragoons suffered enormous losses, and Tavington himself was killed by Benjamin Martin's own hand. In victory, the mission for which the militia had been founded was finally achieved, alongside Martin's own personal vendetta. Through their unusual tactics and disregard for the gentlemanly conduct of war, Benjamin Martin's militia proved to be a crucial factor in the Southern Front. On both the battlefield and behind the lines, they provided to the Continental Army the time it desperately needed, shielding the efforts of their forces further north, and preventing Cornwallis from carrying out a new campaign in which his own efforts might have proved decisive. Few history books today record the achievements of this group, but when Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown, it was a victory made possible by Benjamin Martin's militia.
The Templin Institute investigates the nations, factions, and organizations of alternate worlds. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to join the Templin Institute, consider pledging to our Patreon page. Along with increased security access, you'll be able to vote in polls to determine future topics, get custom wallpaper every week, and receive some other exclusive rewards.